Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Alien Weaponry, Tangaroa, out September 17th on Napalm Records. This album has 12 tracks, 1 hour, 2 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are a New Zealand groove metal band. Now this is a record that really brings a lot of moving pieces. You have brand new songs, you have the singles that represent the album, then you have tracks that were released even before this album was announced. So how do you bring these worlds together? Well, I think you do it the way they did, which is alternating styles, alternating soundscapes, give the record ebbs and flows, a little bit chaotic at times. You really feel lost in some portions of this album, but every time that you feel like you're getting lost within the record, there's a song that you're familiar with, either a single or a song that was previously released, something that the listener can connect to and reset itself and reignite with the experience of listening to the album. The way they're spread out throughout the record is absolutely perfect. They come in at the right time, at the right moment, following a song that perhaps feels a little bit more outside the norm, allowing the record to never really lose its path and allowing the listener to stay on that journey, on that ride from the first song all the way to the last track. As far as the sound is concerned, there's nothing new here as far as this album goes. And I wasn't expecting them to reinvent the wheel. I was really expecting them to pick up what they did with their debut album and continue down the line. And that's pretty much what you're going to get here. This is a record that follows that groove, that raw sound, that punchy, groovy, crunchy guitar riffs that really ignites the experience. Everything that we saw with their debut album kind of continues with this record. They didn't really reinvent the wheel. They didn't start to go down a different path. They just added a few different elements, experiences that they've learned by playing live and supporting their debut album throughout the world, understanding exactly what style song works best in a live setting, and bringing a little bit of that experience, bringing a little bit of that flavor, that natural, raw performance style flavor into their sound on this record, and making the album feel at times a little bit bigger, a little bit more impactful, and this allows the ebbs and flows between tracks to be even more defined than they were on their debut record. Another element of the soundscape that became really apparent that doesn't break the mold from the past, but it really sets itself apart, at least every so slightly, is the more melancholic side of the band. I'm not saying that they were melancholic before, there weren't songs that had melancholy before, that had some sadness and some darkness in them. But I felt like in the previous record that feeling or that emotion was perhaps better hidden with everything else that was happening. The grooves of the song sometimes was so predominant that the darkness that the track held was a little bit subdued by it. On this album, I felt like they took a little bit more chances and stripped down the grooviness and allowed the melancholy to be a little bit more in the forefront, to be a little bit more of the driving force. So when you walk away from this record, you're gonna feel like you're listening to a Alien Weaponry album. You feel like you're continuing down the line of everything that was done with the debut album, but you also feel at the same time that the path that they took on this record perhaps slightly darker. There's a little bit of a darker undertone to this album all around, and I don't think you can walk away from this record without really feeling that dark message or that more somber, melancholic message coming into the forefront, either in the lyrics, the sound, or the overall atmosphere of the tracks. Now, this record features a new bass player, but new bass player, same journey, same sound, same results. Nothing was really missed, nothing was really lost. The band continues to fire on all cylinders, and this addition just feels completely seamless to the overall machine that it is Alien Weaponry. The guitar sound felt a little bit better defined on this record. It felt like it was a little bit more, how can I say, not eclectic necessarily, because it's not like you're going to get a completely different sound from song to song, but there's a little bit more variety in terms of the approach and execution is concerned, and that obviously impacts the overall soundscape. But I really like the guitar sound on this record. It's really punchy, it has a lot of strength, it has a lot of sound, still very groovy, but perhaps a little bit more raw or a little bit more rough around the edges, if you will. The drums play an important role because they really compact the sound, they really give the overall record a feeling of substance, and they control a lot of the movements, they control a lot of the direction in which this record is going to go. And a lot of that raw sound, that live feeling that you get when you listen to this album is really coming across from the drums and how they're put forward. Always there to balance the sound, but not necessarily jumping into the forefront and drowning everything around them. So very nice mixing, very nice balanced approach as far as the overall soundscape is concerned. As far as vocals goes, Lewis has the ability to really have in his voice the output of everything that he experiences and everything that he brings into the song making process. When you listen to him sing, you feel the energy. You feel every single word that he's saying. Those words are not meaningless to him. He's just not putting something together in order to make the song hooky or catchy. He's speaking from the heart. He carries his heart on his sleeve, and that's definitely impacts the way he sings, the way he delivers these songs, the way he delivers these lyrics. He's staying very close in that pocket from what we saw in the debut record, perhaps a little bit more controlled, a little bit more refined, understanding the right momentum in order to explode, in order to be a little bit more angry, in order to bring a little bit more aggression, and knowing exactly when he has to be a little bit more introspective. So what we saw on the debut album was a little bit more loose, was a little bit more raw, a little bit more youthful. On this album, all around, I feel like it's a more mature result. There's a little bit more maturity coming into the way this record is constructed. I really enjoy this album. I think it offers a few different glances in terms of what Alien Weaponry can do, but they didn't go so far away from what they started at that still allows this record to feel like the continuation of their debut album. It's really hard to compare these two records because I just feel like they were created in completely different worlds, in completely different mindsets. So because of that, the outcome is always going to be a little bit different, even though there's a lot of similarities between them. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Hatu Patu. This is a very thick sounding song. It has a lot of volume. You feel it, the guitars, you feel the drums, you feel the bass, everything coming together as one to create this just powerful track that just moves, and it moves with intensity, and moves with strength, and moves with volume. It has a little bit of a raw edge to it. The DNA of the band is intact in this track, but they also bring in their live sound DNA into the mix, allowing the two worlds to combine as one, which is the studio side of the band and then the live side of the band. And this song kind of becomes a hybrid of those two pieces of the same puzzle. So I really like how this song feels, how it sounds. It's an absolute banger from beginning all the way to the end. Then you have Unforgiving. This is the longest song on the album, just over the 7-minute mark, and this song brews. It has a little bit of a ballad style construction and structure to it, but I wouldn't go as far as to call this a ballad. But it does start very melancholic. It does start very stripped down. It has a very slow brewing aspect to it, but then the song becomes a little bit more outgoing because this is a very introspective track. It's introspective all the way through, but that introspection goes from being more as an inner thought to being more of an exteriorization of those thoughts. So the song becomes a little bit bigger, it gains volume, it gains heaviness, it starts to move, it starts to morph, it starts to grow, and it has that sense of upwards movement from the beginning all the way to the end. So it's a very interesting track. It sounds very different from everything else you're going to hear on this album. So it's a song that really defines the record, and it defines itself with the differences that it puts forward, with the emotions that it carries, and the atmosphere that it creates. No song comes close to this one. Last, you have Kai Watu. I love this track because it's perhaps one of the best tracks in order for you to define all the three different elements: bass, guitars, drums, and then you can also define them as they all come together as one. Some tracks you get glimpses of that definition, but on this one I really felt that everybody got a little bit of a piece of that spotlight. You get the drums coming into the forefront, very powerful. Then you feel the guitars mixing in, coming into the picture, providing a lot of power. Then those two elements almost drop out and all you hear is the bass. The bass, it's so thick, it just has a lot of strength. And then you bring them all together and then it becomes just a very volatile track because it just has a lot of movement, all these pieces coming together. On top of it all, you have the vocals. The vocals come in sporadically throughout the track, almost to create more of an atmosphere, almost to create more of a flavor, because all around this is a song that really lives off of the quality of the instrumentation of the track itself, not necessarily what the vocals are giving you. They could have almost gone full instrumental and this song would have really still keep its DNA alive, would still keep its essence going. I just love the sound of this track from beginning to end. The vocals add some flavor, but they are almost not necessary in order for you to get what this track is all about. This is it. This is Alien Weaponry with Tangaroa, out September 17th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band or on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.